This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. It's actually 1:15 p.m. on Tuesday, July 20th. I would like to acknowledge and respect the fact that we're meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, the Anishinaabe, and the homeland of the Métis people. One of our council members is attending remotely today for COVID reasons, COVID precautions. On the screen is Councillor Tumka. And around the table we have
Councillor Bartmanovich, Steve Axworthy, Ryan Randall,
Raymond Morrow, CAO.
and Penny McMorris, Mayor. So welcome, everybody. Move on to the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted with the following addition: Primary Care Development Group, Family Health and Learning Center. May I have a motion? Mike, thank you. Second. Steve, thank you. Any further discussion or additions to the agenda, gentlemen?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you.
Note that the reason why we're all here is because we're all double vaccinated. So just so nobody's worried.
Double vaccinated plus 2 weeks.
Yes, plus 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly. We'll apply for a passport.
Yeah, I qualified about 5-6 days of first chance.
Yes, it's nice to see everybody, really see everybody. All right, moving on to the minutes of the July 6, 2021 regular meeting of council, which were circulated electronically to all council members. Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 6, 2021 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second, Steve?
It's about looking at the
I know,
screen.
I know. I'm so used to looking at the screen.
Why am I not here?
Any comments on the minutes?
No.
You're exceptionally well done.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Yeah, it's weird. Nice, but it's get used to having everybody back. Almost everybody back. We have no delegations today, so we'll move on to the committee reports. Mike, if you're ready, you can start us off with Public Works.
Well, let me take a deep breath.
Yeah.
I'll start with some late breaking news. Due to safety concerns for our residents and for bears, the Wanasing garbage bin has been removed and it has been taken to the Public Works yard. So please stop putting your garbage there. There is no bin to receive it anymore. There is a small sign that explains a little bit further what this is all about.
Yes.
And I have asked Raymond to direct Public Works to remove the large household garbage only sign because
Right.
it's a lot easier to see than the smaller sign. Number 2, please no non-essential watering during these dry times. Both of our water plants are working to keep up with demand, and there are certain times of day where demand gets awful gosh darn close to supply, and we can't afford a shutdown of either the Albert Beach or the Victoria Beach water plants. So please, I know my lawn looks horrible too, but please, no extraneous watering.
Is there a specific time where the plant operators see a big surge? Or I would imagine there's a few. But
Well, weekends, of course, and primarily during the day. You shouldn't be watering your lawn during the day in the heat anyway. It's the wrong time of day to be watering your lawn. You should be watering it in the evening. If you must water in the evening, would be a bad idea so that you're not competing with the actual household essential need for water.
And run your dishwasher at night when you go to bed.
Yeah. A lot of these appliances are on timers now,
Yeah.
even if they're not. The last thing you do before you bring in the dog and put out, well, bring both pets in,
Yeah.
please, because of all the bears. But hit the econo cycle on your dishwasher before you go to bed, and your dishes will be nice and clean in the morning.
The one thing I would just say for people who want to try to save their trees if they're starting to brown, which is that, and it's a little bit of money, but if you use drip irrigation, and it takes up 80 to 87% less water than standard irrigation. So that's something that we could absolutely condone. And then soaker hoses use anywhere between 50 to 60% less water. So again, it's something that you can do, and you'll be seriously helping your trees, but at the same time, it'll be reducing your water consumption.
And I support watering trees if you've just planted and keeping some of your flowers going, but I don't support the lawn watering. It's not necessary, like a lake.
I collect rain.
There hasn't been any.
Well, we've got 2 big barrels in, and we're down at the bottom of our first barrel, but we're using that to water our plants, our vegetables.
I've got a pretty good soaker hose since I removed with them.
All right, moving on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Some folks may have noticed that there was a little bit of a glitch in garbage pickup a week or 2 ago. There was a part that went on the garbage truck, and when the replacement part arrived, it was discovered that it was the wrong part. So we had to send yet once again for the part, but the garbage truck is up and running now. Preventative maintenance. The reason why we still have that garbage truck running is because preventative maintenance continues on all RM vehicles and equipment. Garbage pickup is 3 days a week. And a reminder, don't leave your garbage out for days, as we have a serious bear problem this year. Gee, who doesn't know that? If you're going to leave your garbage for curbside service, it should be in a bear-resistant bin. I have one order that I have fast-tracked for 70 bins. I'll be very immediate, and they're all spoken for, and I'll be immediately ordering several more bins, at least 100 to meet the demand that's starting to become apparent. If your garbage can't be out for less than a day, please consider taking it to the public works yard and disposing of it there. Don't leave it as a temptation for bears, because there is nothing out in the forest. There are no blueberries. There's just nothing. The bears are hungry, so they're going to be looking for food. The large green garbage bins are emptied every day, including weekends, and even then, it's very difficult to keep up with the loads, with the volumes of garbage that's being dumped into these bins. And please, folks, put the garbage in the bins. If you can't lift the lids, please ask a friend or a neighbor to assist you in putting your garbage in the bins. The grass and flower beds are being attended to at a responsible rate. Public Works is still dealing with dead and dangerous trees. E-service requests are being completed as quickly as possible. We do have some additional resources with Public Works for the season, but they are still short of their regular complement, so they're doing the best they can. Water samples continue to be taken at Victoria Beach and Albert Beach and at the fire hall, and throughout the summer and the rest of the year, they're taken to an independent lab in Winnipeg for verification that the water remains potable. They're trying. The Public Works continues to pick up bagged leaves. I know they're not environmentally friendly, but Public Works asks that clear plastic bags be used for your bagged leaves. The swim dock was installed just so Irwin's granddaughters could take swimming lessons, and I think there are a few other people that may be taking swimming lessons as well. Water leaks are repaired as they are reported. If you do see a leak on a municipal water line, please don't dismiss it as just a teeny weeny little leak. Report it to Public Works, because these teeny weeny little leaks can all add up to one big drainage.
Or perhaps an e-service request.
I would phone.
Okay.
I would absolutely phone. If you phone the emergency number, it's available on the website.
Okay.
A reminder that civic signs can be ordered through Public Works. They cost $60, and they will be installed in the fall. The deadline to order them for this year is September 8th. And I'm talking the civic signs, I'm talking about the green reflective address signs. Any brush that was missed is being picked up as time permits. I know that there are a couple of piles that have been reported to me that were missed for one reason or another. Please make note, don't add more brush to an existing brush pile. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's fair game to be added to. Let's not create any more fire hazards. The next period where you will be able to bring your brush onto the roadway will be later on this summer, early fall. I can't remember the exact date, Penny. Do you recall?
The next date for fall pickup is October 18th to 31st.
Thank you. October 18th to 31st is the next time you can actually bring your deadfall and brush to the road. Yes, appliances, barbecues, furniture, beds, mattresses, hot water tanks.
Oh,
People, stop it. Stop bringing them to Public Works. Either take them yourselves to the landfill, or as I've said so many times, there are small companies that would love the business of picking up your large items for you and taking them to the dump for a nominal fee. Thank you very much. I hope we don't have to say that one again. If you need a pass to the Traverse Bay landfill located on Highway 11, you can pick up a pass for the Traverse Bay landfill from Public Works or at the information office. Or if you happen to be in Winnipeg, stop by the municipal office on Portage Avenue and you can pick up a pass. Public Works emergency or after hours number for things like water leaks, downed trees, that sort of thing is 204-756-2568. And in Trevor's absence, I was asked to note a big thanks to Dane for helping to put this report together this week. Thank you.
Just real quick, we should probably move the sign that we have the garbage is moved over to Wansing because it's no longer needed there. So
Okay, that's one.
it's a big sign.
It's a big sign, but
Well, people might need a big sign.
the last thing we can really afford is just that big mound of garbage piling up because Public Works is,
We're monitoring and watching that spot,
Good.
and we will report immediately if
Anybody?
anybody starts to deposit stuff there.
Good.
And there's 4 or 5 of us on kind of a vigilante patrol to discourage dumpers.
I'm hoping you meant vigilance rather than vigilante.
Well,
Okay, I'll go with vigilance.
let's go. I was going to speed up the election.
yeah, instead of citizens on police patrol, it's citizens on garbage patrol.
Yeah. COGP.
Yeah,
Okay, that's me. Thank you.
thank you very much. Going on to finance. Mr. Kamkar, are you ready?
I am. There was some staff issues in the municipal council office earlier in the weekend. I did not get the financial report till late yesterday, and I just didn't have enough time to pull it together, but I will report with your permission at the next meeting.
All right, can we add that to the agenda for the next meeting?
Yep.
I did have a chance to review the accounts that came in and nothing seemed to be untoward or overly large to my knowledge. Anything? Yeah, right, that's separate. Pardon
I
me.
noticed that we fulfilled our obligations as far as the grants or donations to the various groups and associations, and that was good to see.
Yes, I signed a lot of checks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to protective services. Mike, do you want to start with the police report?
Sure. June, believe it or not, was a busy month. There were a total of 157 calls for service. And I'll just hit a couple of the highlights. There were 3 criminal arrests made, 12 bear calls, 15 calls from the RCMP for assist, 13 bylaw infractions were tagged. There were 2 calls for check on well-being of residents. 14 calls related to COVID-19, 3 fire calls. There were 20 incidents of highway traffic act infractions. There was 1 person under the Intoxicated Person Detention Act. 1 call for a noise violation. 2 calls under the ORV Act. 15 parking tags handed out for illegal parking. 30 radar infractions resulting in warnings or tickets. 3 calls for suspicious activity. Watch for your neighbors, folks, please. 3 calls regarding theft. 2 trespassing calls. 1 arrest made under a warrant, and 1 call under the Liquor and Gaming Act. So, never a dull moment.
No. And don't hesitate to contact the police if you see something suspicious or concerning.
They are here to serve the residents of Victoria Beach. 204-756-2322.
Thank you very much. Any questions on police reports? Thank you. Steve, anything for fire?
Yeah, the fire department had 2 calls out this month. Both were fire calls. 1 call was to a grass brush fire that turned out to be a stump on fire. The fire was quickly put out by quick thinking people in the area. The fire department finished the fire off and made sure it was out. The cause of the fire was determined to be the sun reflecting off of a vehicle mirror. The second fire call was to a structure fire. This fire was put out by the owner of the property. Fire crews checked and made sure there was no other hotspots to be concerned about. This fire was caused by fireworks, which you're not allowed to have in the RM, Victoria Beach, ever. The fire department and RCMP talked to the owner about the use of fireworks. We continue to check and maintain equipment and gear. The fire pit inspections and issuing of fire permits are still continuing, even though there is a fire ban. Just a couple of additions is that if you take a look out your windows and doors and go for a walk, you're going to notice that conifers are turning red, they're turning brown, they're losing all their needles. The reason is because they're dying. They have a very shallow root system. They are not drought tolerant, and they are an extreme fire hazard in the RM, even when they are green. So again, at the very least, we need to be cutting the limbs up away from the ground. The reason why this helps the fire department is because if there's a grass fire, it won't jump up and crown. Once the fire crowns, there is very little that the fire department can do. But we do need to be thinning out our conifers, getting rid of them, and replacing them with deciduous trees. There is a fire ban on. There will continue to be a fire ban on until we start to get a substantial amount of rain. So that means no fires. That means no off-road vehicles, even though, of course, right now off-road vehicles are not allowed in RM. But also regarding fireworks, again, you are not allowed to have fireworks in the RM of Victoria Beach. You can have them, you can't light them off. As per Fire Smart, again, all this smoke that's outside right now is caused from massive forest fires that are raging across the province. The last thing that we need is one in the RM. So it's highly recommended that everybody goes and looks at the requirements for Fire Smart. Just one note is that where a lot of people get hung up on Fire Smart is that they see, and unfortunately, it's the very first thing that is on the Fire Smart program, which is to clear your trees to I think it's 20 meters away from your property. Obviously, we're not going to do that because that would clear cut the whole RM. However, that is not the important. That is not the important thing. The most important things for Fire Smart is get rid of everything that's underneath of your cabin, preferably wall off underneath of your cabin, so no sparks can go underneath. Ensure that you don't have conifers that are close to your cabin. If you have any trees that you don't want to get rid of that are within about a 5 meter spread, then cut cut the limbs up so they go above your roof line. So in that way, fire, if it does manage to crown, is only going to be radiating heat onto your roof, but it will help to prevent the spread of fire, hopefully prevent the destruction of your cabin. And those are the most important things when it comes to fire support. There are other recommendations in there, and always have a fire extinguisher. The last thing is to sign up for Connect, because when, it's not an if, it is a when there is a catastrophic fire in the RM, you need to know exactly what to do. Right now, the system is not set up to tell you what to do exactly based on where you are in the RM. Right now, it will be a general message. What we are looking at doing is in the fall, we're going to set up all the different areas in the RM. So essentially what would happen is that you would receive a generalized phone call in the event of a fire based on your area. But for your cell phone, if you are not where your place of residence is, then it will tell you based on your location what to do, where to go. So in that way, you know what to do based on where the fire is, and that will all be controlled from the chief. One last thing on Connect. Is that if you are going to register for it, please put your Victoria Beach address down, and don't put your permanent address down outside of the beach, because the biggest problem that they're having right now, and the reason why we haven't been able to set the system up yet, is because we need to fix all of the data that we've received, because most people are putting in their addresses outside of Victoria Beach, which doesn't help you in the event of a fire. It doesn't help if we're phoning your place of residence in Ontario when you're in Victoria Beach and we're trying to get you to evacuate. So that is pretty much everything I got for fire.
So if anybody out there knows that that's exactly what you did, gave the wrong address, maybe if you could give the RM office a call and make that correction, so our folks don't have to, however less hunting around they can do, the better. Just one other thing is that we are in region 4 of the province, and there is an out and out absolute ban on any backcountry travel,
Including Elk Island.
including Elk Island. Yes, thanks, Penny. That's even no hiking. Like, you stay out. All the roads are closed. You may see the yellow tape on a lot of the roads and trails off Highway 59. If you have an ORV, there's absolutely no reason why you should be starting it whatsoever. There is nowhere to go.
The heat underneath of the ORV can actually light fires as it drives, and that was something that they're especially experiencing now. But previous to this year, they had experienced it a couple times in Saskatchewan and Alberta. As far as I know, there was never a case in Manitoba except until now. But basically, you're driving with your ORV, you don't notice that it's happening, but the underneath of the engine, it gets so hot that if the grasses are able to catch on the bottom, it starts to spark and they start to fly. So as you're driving, you're lighting a fire behind you. So just leave it for now.
So on that note, we do have evacuation plans that we have posted on our website, applicable for within the vehicle restricted area, during the vehicle restricted period, and outside the vehicle restricted area. So please have a look at those. You can get them hard copies if you can't download them. Get hard copies at the information office, summer information office, or at Anderson's septic office. Community Center, they have hard copies.
Right beside the post office.
Yeah, right beside the post office. And there's also a family safety plan on our website that you should be having a look at. Let's hope we never have to use them, but it's best to be prepared and remain vigilant.
When you go to the RM website, click on the forms and documents page.
Right.
And no fireworks. That call was from me. Because somebody a block away was lighting fireworks. Actually, I watched them go up, and I said, "Oh Lord, no, please."
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing for special events. Golf course, Mike?
I contacted Carl. All he did was return a smile and a big thumbs up. The numbers are up around where they were last year at this time, and last year was a gangbuster year.
Yeah.
So we're hoping for the same thing this year for our little gem in Victoria Beach.
The fairways are incredible. I was shocked. Like, it's so well done.
Yeah, they work hard.
Oh yeah.
They really do. Thank you, guys. All right, municipal buildings. Great.
Municipal buildings report submitted to council a few days ago. $5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should raise the fee. Or make it-
Well,
Yeah, after this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
My apologies.
Okay.
It should be a case of pop.
Municipal buildings. Work is in progress on upgrades to 3 of the stairs to the beach at number 3 Bayview, Red Wing, and Clubhouse Beach number 2 North. The Clubhouse Beach stairs being rebuilt will likely take place this fall to allow access to the beach by motorist equipment to remove the existing stairs. We're anxiously awaiting the outcome of our application for the Provincial Building Sustainable Communities Grant for 75% of the estimated costs to renovate the log cabin next to the Moonlight Inn into community accessible washrooms. Still a little bit of thunder. Air conditioning is now installed at the doctor's cottage and has been replaced due to equipment failure at the information office. Hazardous trees have now been removed from the doctor's cottage. And we've been complimented by the accessibility committee on the new steel accessible handrails at the bakery, VP store, recycling depot stairs, and information office. They're professionally done to code and finished in permanent baked enamel. One addendum to my report that developed yesterday, we think we may have found a master of ceremonies or a convener for a public meeting on the status of the Moonlight Inn to be conducted as soon as the regulations will allow us to have a large gathering of residents. Hopefully we can do it before September long, because once everybody disappears,
Yeah.
then we're talking to a much smaller group, and we need to get the feedback and the feelings and the support and the opinions of as many of our taxpayers as possible. I'll be meeting with this gentleman in the next little while. We've already exchanged some details, so that's looking very good.
Is this a resident?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is an esteemed resident, I might add.
All right,
And that concludes my municipal buildings report. Thank you.
thank you. Doctors Committee, Erwin?
Pleased to report that the doctor's clinic continues to operate. They are appreciative of the fact that the dangerous tree was removed, and they are appreciating the air conditioning. Again, a special thanks to all of the community volunteers who made the opening of the doctor's clinic a possibility. Thank you.
Have they received the terms of reference so that we can make sure we're all on the same page with that?
No.
Okay.
I think that one of the things that I was intending to do is, there are a number of things in there that cannot be done retroactively. So it would seem to me that it would be a good idea if those terms of reference were introduced and put into effect for the 2022 year.
Except we passed them already.
Yes, but again, it's hard to retroactively make some changes. It's my intention to distribute it to the committee. Likely I would have got that done earlier this week, but it didn't happen. So
All right,
they have not seen the final draft yet.
thank you. Mike, did you have a question?
Not quite, just to let you know, I did receive some replacement parts, so the doctor's office will get a bin shortly.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, thank you very much. Communications, Steve and or Mike and or me?
My two points in communication are actually later up in the meeting, so aside from that, I don't.
The Facebook page continues to bash the news out as quickly as we can, get it to residents. And again, if you have not joined BB Connect, please do so.
And the RM office can help you if you
Yeah.
don't have access to the internet or need a hard copy. The RM can help you fill that out.
If you have a phone, you can receive BB Connect messages, even if it's a landline.
I might propose just that perhaps we would do another flyer or Connect.
Well, do you have any idea what the numbers are?
I have to go and log in. I think one thing I'd like to add to Mike's comment about phoning is we're going to be very selective about when we actually send a message by landline, because what happens is the minute you do that, if people don't answer the phone or they're on their cell phone when it rings, it won't leave the full message. We got
You time
flooded.
on the messages.
The last time I did one, which wasn't very long ago, we got flooded with phone calls. People inquiring, what was the message about? They had already got a text, they had already got a mass email,
Yeah,
but they registered their cell phone, so they were on their phone or they didn't answer it in time,
and their service provider determines how long it will.
Yeah.
which
Run
is
for a
terrible
message.
from our, I think we would only use that in something that is very emergent.
Okay.
An extreme emergency.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just too much of a hassle at this end.
Yeah.
Fire, tornado, somehow flooding.
Yeah, something very serious, something very serious.
The oceans have risen.
The sky is full.
Okay, I don't have anything to add to that. Thank you, gentlemen. Summer Information Office next. And the ladies at the Summer Info Office are doing a great job meeting and greeting people as they come and go from our community. So thank you very much.
There was one, two things on the Summer Information Office. And the ladies who work there are exceptionally courteous. But I've just seen two instances of people not being so courteous to them.
Yes.
And it's not the most glamorous work because until now, they've been sitting in a hot box for 8 hours a day serving the residents. So just, be patient, be nice to them. There's literally a sign up that says that. So, just thank them and be courteous to them. The second thing is that I was also told that the map that's given out needs a little bit of updating. So I could probably do something within the next couple of weeks.
Could you submit that to the office here for printing, because almost every year they run out of maps and it's an urgent. Remember, we used to run over and print them off on Curtis's printer.
They have a printer.
Yeah, they have a, okay, well, they have a printer
Yeah,
now, so.
yes, they do. But don't we have an updated, smaller version?
Yeah, we have. You have to tell us that they need a map.
Maybe email it to the,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can bring them up, but we don't know general towns, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we-
one off of Ream and I can always drop them off.
It was just more so the concern was that it wasn't absolutely clear where things were.
Oh,
So, I can do something else real quick. So it's not that big of a thing, but I'll get that done for you guys for approval.
Thank you.
but if we already have it, I don't want you to waste your
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's not just mine.
It'll take me an hour.
Okay.
I got time. Don't worry.
Well, that's right.
I want to hear about the building inspector because there's lots going on.
One of the things I do want to add though, is that, every year we get complaints about too much traffic in the vehicle restricted area from residents, and vehicles are going too fast, they're not stopping at stop signs. I just want to say that that's not always up to the girls in the information office.
Yeah.
Don't call and complain to them. Call the police if it's a traffic issue. But residents have to remember that if you don't call a contractor, they won't come.
Yeah.
They're not looking for business. They've got plenty. So, think about how you can plan your renovation or your landscaping. Instead of doing it during the heavily populated summer, summer months, think about doing it in May or June or September and October instead of in busy vehicle restricted time. And kids have to remember that there are vehicles. Their parents have to tell their kids, It's not a vehicle-free zone. Some young child ran into a truck in the vehicle restricted area. It could have gone badly. It didn't, but it's hard on the truck drivers. It's hard on the, the kids. So please, everybody, just be careful. It's not vehicle-free.
It's vehicle restricted.
Well, good for you.
And everybody has to
You-
stop at the
you
stop
feel-
signs.
Yeah. Do you feel better
Bikes
now?
included,
Yeah.
That is a good point, honestly. That,
Oh, yeah.
one of the things that I hear a lot is, well, this is their busy season in the summer, but why? And the only reason is because people are scheduling. Like,
That's right.
you can, what people need to realize is that the people who are doing the work, a lot of them are there year round. So they would almost appreciate having it scheduled outside of the summer season, which helps everyone.
You might even get a better price if you just do it in the spring or the fall.
Mhm. But, yeah. All right, thank you very much. Building inspector, Mike is waiting with bated breath. right
Oh,
now.
yes. And thank you to Curtis for a detailed report as usual. The number of permits to run through the main dwelling, 1 garage, 1 addition, 1 additions, 2 guest house, 1, 2 sheds, 5 decks, 1 demolition, 1 leveling, 1 pool. The leveling one is interesting because that speaks to our development permit. 1 pool, 2 hot tubs, 1 plumbing, 1 step replacement, 1 outdoor shower, and 2 fences. The value of the permits, $390,400. The permit fees collected, $7,567. Year to date, value of permits is $5,688,000. Possibly a new world record. And the permit fees collected to date, $53,641. So thank you for this, Curtis, and that's the building inspector's report.
He has been busy.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah. He's averaging 3 days a week out there rather than his normal 2, and he does make special trips on demand as and when required. So he's everywhere.
And he gets phone calls all hours of the day and night.
Yep.
So if people could try and respect business hours, that would be, I'm sure, appreciated.
Well, and show some respect for our building inspector. He sometimes encounters people who are less than pleasant to deal with. Remember, he's just trying to do his job, and he's sincere in trying to do the best he can. So be polite, be courteous. He deserves
If you're doing any kind of renovation,
He's got,
Yeah.
phone it.
he's got rules to follow like everybody else.
There was one issue that's come up with leveling the cabins. So previously, this is not a recent development, but I suppose it's recent in the grand scheme of things, which is that you didn't need a building permit to level the cabin. That has changed a while ago. So just to let everybody know, you need to right now that having been in construction for several years, leveling a house, leveling a building of any kind is one of the most dangerous things you can possibly do in construction. It only takes one of the jacks to give way, be on soft ground, to move slightly, and somebody's either losing their legs, the building's falling over and taking people out. Every year people get killed doing it. So yes, you need to have a building permit to be able to level your house, and that does include an engineering report to make sure the building itself is sound, but it's also to look to make sure that the pads of which are going under to support the jack are not going to be moving down. What will happen is that if everything's electronic, you won't know that one of the jacks is starting to sink. And once that happens, the building will start to move over, it can collapse, and that's when people get killed. So you need to have a building.
Thank you. I do not have an report this month. Heritage and Trails.
For Heritage Volunteer Awards, we're still waiting to receive some. So if you know anybody that's in the community who should be recognized for their extremely hard work, and there are a lot, recognize them. This coming Herald, there'll be 4 people recognized from the community. Unfortunately, one has passed, but all 4 will be recognized. And we're still waiting to receive others. One of the things that came up last year was that a lot of these people did not, they felt, I suppose, self-conscious about their being recognized for their time. I mean, it's just something nice to do. If, of course, if they really don't want to be recognized, they don't have to. But yeah, just think about it. It's showing them the appreciation of the community. With trails, there are several spots along the trails which are basically standalone schoolhouse trail. We really need to pack them down because I was out there yesterday and you can't pass through them on a bike. It just separates. It's kind of like trying to drive on ride on the beach. So we need to get a packer out there to deal with it. There are spots along the trails that need widening, especially around the gravel pit, and general maintenance is an issue. But for both heritage and trails, I'm hoping that and asking that we can pull in a student, high school student that has been double vaccinated to set up the site so that we can get a proper submission page for heritage. And for trails, it needs to be done through the municipality. I can very easily set my own thing up for a volunteer list, equipment list, and so I have everything that I need. The problem is that all that liability falls on me, and I'm not prepared to put that liability on me if it's going through our website. The liability is then with the municipality. So I need those sites set up. So I'm just asking if we can just pull in a student, because the office doesn't have time to do it. Apparently it's not on AllNet to set up these sites. So I just need these 2 sites set up. Otherwise I can't do anything with trails in terms of setting up any sort of volunteer list and to organize everything. Yeah.
Steve, 2 things. As far as the students to contribute towards the site, do we need a resolution on that?
Well, that's an administrative matter. You don't know that they have extra computers sitting around for someone to come in and play on our website.
Unless the person has their own computer.
Yeah, they would have to have, all they need is their own computer.
Well, but, I don't know what exactly you need or want for this site, but.
What you do is you create the script for the page. You submit the script to AllNet and say, put this up.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Originally, when we first had the original proposal for the new site, I did it. It never came to fruition. I've submitted it a couple times, still never came to fruition because it's not AllNet. AllNet saying it's not them. We're saying, well, we don't have time, or it's not us, and it's just like these 2 pages have not been able to be set up yet. It's basically like you could get a Wix site and do it in 10 seconds. And for here, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I've seen the work on the website. It's very simple and very straightforward. But I need somebody to help set this up.
Obviously, there's an issue. Maybe what we should do is we should take this offline, and maybe Raymond with Steve's help needs to investigate whether or not AllNet is being responsive enough to our needs.
Well,
I don't think that's the issue. I think AllNet is very responsive.
They responded to these things. I can forward you the emails. How
Then,
they responded. So I don't want to get into.
Yeah, then point of order. This
Yeah.
is not the arena for this. Can we move on?
And finally, Steve, the swing gates. There had been some talk about subcontracting their installation out to a third party. Is that no longer in the works?
I don't think we've ever.
I thought that was the original intent. Maybe not officially,
No.
but it seemed to me that was the
All right,
real
so
council.
it's on
Public Works was too busy. Let's hire someone to install these things.
Well, that never went any further.
It did not go any further to my
So
knowledge.
it's still on Public Works
It's
list.
on Public Works list. They have to get site locations from, I guess, MTS and Hydro before they can install them where they want to install them.
Yep.
Trevor's away right now, but I'm sure it is on their way.
Okay, I know they've got a big auger for the back of the
Yeah.
backhoe to get the posts in.
They're gonna have to set them in cement.
Yep.
And they have to make them, put them in the right position so that people can get around them and so that when they're open,
All right,
the groomer can get through them in the winter and
so it's on the list.
it's on the list.
Okay, thank you.
The long list. All right, anything else on our committee reports, gentlemen? All right, be it resolved that the July committee reports be accepted as presented. May I have a mover?
I'll move
Corinne,
on.
thank you. Second,
Let everyone know.
oh, Steve's got his hand up. Sorry, I saw him out of the corner of my eye. Steve seconds. Any further discussion? Carried. Erwin, did I get a yes from you or a hand? I'm not used to, you're not approved? Okay, thank you. All right.
Kids feeling left out.
I know. Accounts and finances, be it resolved that the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 9381 to 9462 in the amount of $277,550.76. My goodness. July 9th payroll in the amount of $60,146.03. And Visa in the amount of $1,988.42. May I have a mover?
Usually it goes.
Erwin, thank you. Second. Mike, thank you. Erwin, would you like to?
Few comments.
Say anything
I
on
have
this?
reviewed the list of accounts. There's two notable items. One in the amount of $71,589 for a new police truck. Wow, that must be quite the unit. And secondly, we paid for the dust off, dust control in the amount of $40,126. Those are the only two notable items. The balance of the items are
Thank you, which completely.
routine and appear to.
There were no big items.
The only thing I'll say about the police truck, and again, most people during the election will know that I was wanting to reduce the police budget, but then after getting in, realizing that, what a vital service can play. So like the police trucks are not just basically like any old truck that you get off of any lot. So a lot of people will say, well, why couldn't you have gotten something for 50,000 or get a secondhand one for 20,000 or 10,000? Those don't do. You have to have a very specific electrical system. Everything has to be to police code. So unfortunately, yes, it is going to be a higher ticket item, but it's because it has to meet the bill. One of the problems that we had when we first came in was that we had a what was it, van? Was it the van that was causing us so much
We had a
problem?
little van.
Chevy
that
Equinox.
Yeah.
That caused no end of grief.
Yeah, and
And it was a Ford
you would
van,
literally be,
and it was used.
yeah, you would try to chase somebody down, and then the car itself would stop working because the electrical system wasn't up to code.
I don't even think you had to be chasing. Sometimes when you were just driving, you were just.
Yeah, so it's it's $71,000, but it has to meet certain criteria.
A brand new half ton is around $70,000 anyway. We got a hell of a good price for that truck.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
And we've tried over the years retrofitting vehicles.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
would
we're
work
just
better.
talking
And they were
about that,
just
yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars down the drain.
No inconvenience.
Right.
Anyway,
Anyway, so we now have two very good police vehicles and the black truck will eventually go to Public Works.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, Erwin? All right. Any further comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to bylaw 1623, regulating non-licensed motorized vehicles. Be it resolved that bylaw 1623, regulating the use of non-licensed motorized vehicles within the municipality, be given its second reading. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Second, Steve. Sorry, Erwin, Steve got it. This bylaw is to do with golf carts, the latest
Scourge.
issue in the RM. Any further discussion?
No, I think it was discussed pretty thoroughly at the first reading and we all understand its intent.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of second reading?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. We'll have third and final reading, which is recorded. Be it resolved that bylaw 1623 regulating the use of non-licensed motorized vehicles within the municipality be given third reading and passed. May I have a mover?
Irwin,
Irwin
there we
Gotta
go.
get into the game.
And I'll second that.
and Graham will second. Any further discussion on this bylaw?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Carried, thank you. Thank you for being my bearer, Graham.
Mhm.
Moving on to bylaw 1624, be it resolved that bylaw 1624, providing an administrative penalty scheme for general bylaw enforcement, be given second reading. May I have a mover? Steve? Second? Mike? Thank you. As we know, every time we introduce a new bylaw where a fine or a fee is involved, we have to update our administrative penalty scheme. So this is what we're doing. Any further discussion on bylaw 1624?
It's a housekeeping issue and it replaces the old 1616. The right thing to do.
All right. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Third and final reading of this bylaw recorded. Be it resolved that bylaw 1624, providing an administrative penalty scheme for general bylaw enforcement, be given third reading and passed. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second? Mike? Thank you. Any further discussion? This bylaw comes around a fair amount very
Yeah.
frequently. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you.
Regulations surrounding this would change, so it's like you don't always have to pass them.
I know.
Thing is that if you start amending bylaws, then the problem is you have to go look at more than one bylaw to see all the provisions of the bylaw. That's why we rewrite that everything is contained in the new bylaw, which means you give it a new number. Now the enforcement bylaw refers specifically to a bylaw number that no longer exists. Now you gotta go change.
It can't be.
I don't think so. Like, you could do amendments, but the
Yeah.
problem with the amendments is you could have three different amendments to a bylaw, and then you have to look at 3 bylaws to figure out what is actually enforced.
There's just too bad you can't like put the name of it, like you actually have to number it, but like if you could just put the name of it, then it just,
Yeah.
like, yeah, no matter how many times you change it, they'll just see this one.
Well, with computers, it's
Yeah.
very simple, right? For the most part, you copy and paste.
All right, thank you. I did call for the vote on that, yes.
Yeah.
2020 audit. Be it resolved that the Ardmore Victoria Beach Council acknowledge its receipt and review of the Exchange Group recommendation letter dated July 6, 2021. Be it further resolved that Mayor McMorris be authorized to sign the said letter on behalf of council. May I have a mover? Irwin, thank you. Second?
I'll second that.
Graham, thank you. This is a housekeeping issue in terms of the audit. We have to do it every year.
Yep.
Do we actually have the audit, the actual audit in our hands?
Well, here's the deal. I have a draft of the audit that I got a little while back. I had questions back to the auditor about some of the journal entries, some of the categorization of some of the purchases. Some of them were being changed to tangible capital assets with amortization instead of a straight expenditure. So I went back to the auditor and pointed out that we had a policy in place in terms of what we capitalize, which is all capital items that are over and above $10,000. So he's removed all those. And that's why you don't have the draft, because there's no point in me sending out a draft until the draft has to be amended if you're changing entries.
Right.
So there was that. There were some journal entries that I questioned relating to that, which have now been removed. He actually responded back to me today, this morning, because he was, this is not the only audit he's doing. That's not the only job he has. So he's had this for maybe a week, but, you know, we have to wait on him reviewing the points I brought forth to him. So now I will, he sent me the revised draft and I will take another look at it. So ideally what will happen then is I will send it back to him and indicate we're good with it, and he will send us the clean version, which will be for council.
Should these not be tabled until such time?
Or, no, this is nothing to do with it. This has to do with our responsibility
Yeah.
as an organization.
Oh, all right. It's
Yeah, it's got
procedure.
nothing to do with the audit. It's got to do with the audit, but it has to do with the financial statements. Sorry, I didn't word it the right way. It doesn't have anything to do with those financial statement production. It has to do with our responsibilities, CAO responsibilities, council responsibilities.
Yep.
That type.
Okay.
I'll trust you on that. Okay.
Yes. All right. Any further discussion? Thank you for that, Eamon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. 2020 audit count. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the CAO to sign the management's representation letter with respect to the 2020 audit completed by the exchange group. Can I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Graham, thank you. Mike, second. Thank you. Any further discussion?
It's self-explanatory. It needs to be done.
Move on.
All right. All those in favor?
All right.
Carried. Thank you. Revised 2021. Oh, sorry, one more thing.
One more.
Yeah, one more.
Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized Mayor McMorris to sign the exchange group representation letter with respect to the 2020 audit. May I have a mover, please? Mike, second. Steve, thank you. Sorry, Erwin. Any discussion?
That's what I was saying. Just to go
All
through.
right, call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Signing the papers.
Sign the resolution to say that you can sign the papers.
A lot of signing. Thank you, John.
I'm
All
getting
right.
confused.
Yes. Be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approve the revised 2021 employee salaries as per schedule dated July 20th, 21. May I have a mover?
I'll move that.
Graham, Steve, will you second? Thank you. Any further discussion?
Discussed it at length.
Fair value.
We have a great group of employees. Thank you all for all their efforts on our behalf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. The CIBC 2021 operating line of credit. Whereas CIBC has requested an updated borrowing resolution to meet their security requirements. Therefore, be it resolved, the Council of the Arm of Victoria Beach authorizes the ongoing operating line of credit of $500,000 and the 5 corporate Visa cards with a total limit of $20,000 for the year 2021. May I have a mover?
Erwin.
You got it.
Erwin, thank you. Second. Mike,
Says
Steve,
okay.
pardon me, thank you. Any discussion?
More housekeeping comes up every year.
And we rarely use this line of credit.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we've used the $500,000 line of credit because we'll borrow from our own reserves to avoid that.
but the bank
Requires that we maintain it. So yes, this
Yeah, the issue
enables that.
you get into is you can't just go to a bank manager and say we need $500,000. They do it in advance because it's not even probably done through Winnipeg anymore. Quite often done through Calgary.
Yep.
So they don't want to have to bring somebody in to review your financial statements and decide, yeah, we're willing to take on a debt of $500,000 on behalf of the other.
Yep.
It just simplifies the whole process.
Did I call the question?
No, you're about to call the vote.
About to call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. realize I can, yeah, anyways.
You're looking for yourself up there.
I know, yes. All right, thank you. There's a couple additions here. Steve, in-person council meetings are next.
So I contacted the social scene to see whether or not we could start having in-person meetings again. They've agreed that we could. I sent this out to everyone with the protocols that would be in place, and given what I was sort of forwarding off and saying this is how we conduct everything, they feel good that this would be within the COVID protocols and very safe to operate. So they are willing to host us for the August 3rd meeting and pretty much onwards whenever we need, but we could also start on the 17th or the 21st, whenever we agree as to when we could start up again. Essentially, what I was proposing is that everyone that would be attending in person is vaccinated. So that would mean that if you've only had one dose, or if you are not vaccinated, that you wouldn't be allowed entry. This would just be to ensure that for everybody's safety, and you would have to give proof of your vaccination status. And then what could be amended for when the provincial restrictions change is that people would have to sit 2 meters apart. Again, unless the provincial restrictions change, that attendees would have to wear masks. Again, unless the provincial restrictions change, councillors would be seated 2 meters apart, and councillors would have their own dedicated microphone, again, unless the provincial restrictions change. So that was the proposal that was sent out. Also regarding bylaw 1622, the zoning bylaw, we have to have a public hearing, as everybody here knows. It requires 30 days notice and some other requirements, but we do have to have a public hearing. So I've sent out 2 different propositions. I'm not going to read off both, but both have been accepted from the community center, so they're able to host us. They would be able to have at least 100 people with the restrictions as is right now inside. And for those who are not vaccinated, or if we had overflow, we could very easily set something up outside with speakers and a proper presentation and a microphone, so that way people could still answer questions. So we're fully open and available to residents. But we would have what I'm proposing is that we would have a registration online, so that way we would know how many people were coming ahead of time, so then that way we can easily adjust for that. Yeah.
That speaks to the community center. It's my understanding that the social scene is still limited to 25 people, and that would include council as well. Who's going to stand at the door to tell people they can't come in?
Well, there was some discussion about that perhaps before you arrived.
Yeah.
Things are a little bit different because we are a government. Any government hearings, they adhere to a different rule. And basically the indoor physical limitations are going to be how to be the number of people that you can safely, physically distance within the area.
And again, the social scene agreed to the stipulations that I read off ahead of time. So, I mean, with somebody to check that you're double vaccinated, it's pretty easy. You just have a QR code on your phone, or you print it off, or you have the card itself. You can come up, scan it, and it shows that yes, this person is in fact double vaccinated. So it's really a very simple process to be able to come and show that. I mean, restaurants are doing it all across the city. So.
But if they're masked and social distanced under the government regulations, even if they haven't been double vaccinated, they can still attend.
Yeah. For mine, I would say that we should just limit it to 2 doses, and that's it. That's all. You can still see it online. You can still access our meetings different ways. You can still send in emails. You can still have an online delegation. All of that's still available. But this is for people who want to come in person again. Starting to get back to normal. But as far as I'm concerned, we should only be opening to people in person who have 2 doses. And it's very easy to check that.
2 doses plus 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 doses plus 2
Can we
weeks.
legally do that though?
Oh,
Can you
yes.
say if Mike shows up and he's only got 1 vaccination or 0 vaccinations? Yeah, I know. For instance, when we say, sorry, you're not coming in, they have a right to present. And we also have to worry about, I mean, if we're talking about holding these at the beach, which is my preference as well, we need to make sure the bandwidth is there if we're going to be doing virtual and
We don't do virtual at the.
We
yeah,
can't
we
do
can't
virtual.
do
That's
that.
that's
So
the
you can't
broadcast.
do
Maybe at my house, but I certainly won't fit all the people.
So there's no way that people could do a virtual presentation.
Is it
It would have
is
to be
it
public.
is it perhaps because of all these considerations, is it premature to plan on next council meeting being at the beach?
I don't believe so. It's either in person or people can, as they do now, watch it the next day on YouTube. We can still record it.
And if they have any issues, again, they can still send an email. We can still read it out if it's something that demands it. And if they want to have the delegation, they can. If it's something that's absolutely pressing, then perhaps we might be able to make some sort of arrangements, or they can wait to the next meeting.
Oh, I'm all for getting back to normal and meeting with the public and seeing them and having them speak to us. You'll note, of course, that today's agenda specifies that the next meeting is here at 1 o'clock.
And in order for us to change the time and date of the meeting, it has to be done 2 weeks in advance.
Right.
So Penny, I'm troubled by your comment about we cannot restrict people who are not double vaccinated. I mean,
Well,
the
I
federal
don't know, Erwin, if we have that authority. You know, it's not mandatory that you get vaccinated.
No, it is
So,
not.
so
but
how,
if you want to cross the Canadian border, you need evidence of double vaccination. Governments can make rules.
If you want to go into a public building, you do not need to be double vaccinated. If you want to go into a restaurant, you do not need to be double vaccinated.
so maybe
Is that
this
right?
would,
Okay.
you know, I just want to make sure that if we say that we have the actual authority to say that, and now maybe the venue can specify that.
My son was refused entry into 3 restaurants on Monday because he didn't have his double vaccination card. Finally got it.
But that's
And which
the
province
venue,
was that?
Alberta.
No, that's here in Winnipeg.
Oh, that was here in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Well, if the venue is willing to take
Yeah,
responsibility.
the venue's willing to take responsibility.
Enforcing 2 back plus 2 week, well, that absolves us from.
But that's their policy.
Yeah. So right now, our next council meeting is August
August the
3rd. So I would propose we leave that one, but do our best to plan to be at the lake on August 21st, perhaps.
17.
17th?
Yeah, let's do that.
August 17th,
Yeah,
subject to COVID regulations and restrictions and all that. So
and take one more pass at the
let's see.
community center and the social scene to make sure that they are willing to enforce the 2 back regulation on their heads.
As I said, I've already been in contact with them for both of these propositions. I gave them 2 and kind of sent them out, and they're fine for both, whichever one we chose to do. I would greatly push forward that we only allow people with 2 doses. It's not to punish people without vaccinations, but first of all, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is very clear. You do not have the right to put others in danger. And the pandemic is no longer among the vaccinated, the fully vaccinated. It is among the people who refuse to wear masks and refuse to get double vaccinated or vaccinated at all. That's where the risks are. So all we're doing is, because again, we're still giving a presentation. They can see everything online. They still have full access to government. So we're not restricting them at all. But it's just simply saying, if you want to come in person, you have to be double vaccinated. And that protects us, that protects the venue, that ensures that the people inside themselves are protected.
I totally agree with Steve. You know, we get double vaccinated to protect our families and to protect our fellow residents. So by having a meeting where we would allow non-vaccinated people to attend, I think that creates as much of a legal problem as allowing you know, the restriction. So let's go for the double vaccination.
For August 17th.
I think the first piece is that the venue's called, not the municipality.
Yes.
We don't own those venues.
Yeah.
The public hearing part, unless everybody can attend without restrictions, I think you're looking for trouble. It's not about the venues, it's about the planning act. That's what I deal with.
We can't advertise a date for that.
No, we gotta know where it is, when it is, and yes, you can invite people to register, you can't make them. And they can still show up even if they don't register. You cannot exclude people from attending the public hearing.
But if we set it up so it's a full house within the restrictions framework, and then we also have a setup outside where again they can watch on a projection and they can still ask questions through a microphone. They can still hear everything. And that's not limiting them at all. They can still they're still participating, but
If it's raining, if it's pouring rain, and they can't be outside.
But if the mosquitoes arrive.
Well, and the logistics of a widescreen TV sitting outside of the parking lot, I don't like that. It's too.
I think residents shouldn't, well, I don't think residents should be made aware that they can send in email concerns. That's their, you know, that's up to them to
And
do that.
correspondence.
And correspondence in regards to the zoning bylaw. And I think it's best to wait until it's safe for us to do so, and we can include as many people who want to be included without restrictions, certain restrictions. This is an important bylaw, and people have passionate opinions about it.
Yeah, we can't impose rules on them.
I totally agree with Penny. I mean, it is a sensitive issue. We may not have any choice but to wait till spring. I hate to say that, but
Oh
that
my.
may be direct. We can't do it in the wintertime because we would then be criticized for not providing a venue for our snowbirds.
Hotel across the street.
So,
Yeah.
But that
Let's-
would be smaller, the community center. Like they're literally willing to open up the whole building to us.
Good point.
So we will
But the
definitely
people
be,
aren't out there in the winter.
we'll definitely do our best to have this when there are more residents around.
Yeah.
I really hope we don't have to wait till next spring, but
don't you want it to be an election issue, Penny?
pardon me?
Don't you want it to be an election issue?
Sure.
The risk is strictly in the hands of the municipality with the planning act, not the venue. If there's any issue with the process, we will have to do it all over again.
Yep.
So we're not going to do that. We need to make sure that we're complying fully with the planning act provisions.
And if it happens in the off season, it probably has to be held in winter in deference to the majority of our taxpayers.
Zoning bylaw has been on the website since the last meeting. That's the whole idea. People can scrutinize it. They can make notes. They can email. They don't have to object in person. They can. Can't stop them, but they can object by email. We don't take verbal objections. They can do it by email.
Well, they've already responded, quite a few.
But to do with the public hearing, they wouldn't actually have to come to the public hearing if they couldn't.
Madam Mayor, the agenda item says in-person council meetings,
Ah.
not hearings.
Thank you.
Can we move on?
So are you okay with this, Steve, if we move on?
Sure. So should we inform them that it wouldn't be for August 3rd, it'd be for August 17th that it'd be looking for?
I would
I
say
think we'll look at a council meeting like hopefully for August
August
17th.
17th. Yeah,
And
for sure.
we'll determine that
And then
on August 3rd.
just look at the bottom line of the August 3rd agenda.
Yeah.
That'll
Okay,
tell us all.
thank you. So next up, dedicated beach areas for dogs.
Yeah. So this is something that was kind of generally talked about between us since the last meeting, but it's also something that I've kind of been pushing for a little while. The thing is that very much Victoria Beach can be a no RM, which is just, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this, you definitely can't do that. And if you really want to do that, that's definitely no. So I think that we've kind of heard enough no's. And especially now that climate change is hitting us even harder, look outside. The reality is that back when my dog was alive, if it was 35, 40 degrees outside, I would basically say, screw the bylaws. I don't care. I'm going to take them down to the water so he can pull off, because I would rather save my dog's life than care two cents about this about a bylaw. So what I'm proposing is that that we find 2 or 3 beaches, sections of the beaches which aren't used very much in the VRA. Obviously, a little bit more. I would say sort of the east side of the Yacht Club Beach, because it's not heavily used, but we could put a fence down the beach and basically have a dog run where dogs can be off leash, run into the water. Obviously, all those same bylaws still apply, where the owners are responsible for picking up the dog's waste, which they already do responsibly currently.
And the dogs must be on a leash. That's the bylaw.
Currently, yes, but we can amend it to allow for this section where they're not on leash. And right now, I mean, if you go down to the beaches, even like at 6 o'clock, dogs are down there off leash all the time. So the residents are already doing it. And so if we dedicated a beach where they can go off leash and they can have access to the water whenever they want in a designated area, then what we allow is for easy enforcement around the rest of our dog owners. Find it more accessible for them, where they can just simply go to that designated beach. And people who have an issue with dog owners, rather than saying, oh, you're not allowed here and getting confrontations, can just simply say, there is a beach for your dog where they can go off leash and they can go into the water. So it's a much more open way of dealing with the issue, because right now we have a system that really is not working. Like, dog owners take their dogs to the beach. They're never on a leash after about 6 o'clock. And I think it's 10 o'clock that they're
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Let's not say never, but you are correct. There are people that are ignoring the bylaw.
Yeah, and so let's just simply give them an area, and then that way it's easy to enforce everything else, because you see a dog that's on a different beach, and then no, you're not allowed to have your dog out there.
Well, as a dog owner, I would be hard pressed to go out of my way to go to a farther beach than take my dog down to the closest beach after 8 o'clock or before 10 in the morning. We're always going to run into, I think, not in my backyard, not on my beach. And east of the BBYC is used, because there's more beach there now than there has been because of lower water levels. It is used, and people who live above there are then going to be hearing the barking, the yelling, the playing, and may or may not want that. My concern is, no matter where we put it, someone is not going to be happy.
It's going to be a huge NIMBY.
It will be a huge knot in my backyard. A few years ago, or not that long ago, someone suggested we have a dog park in the orchard area on Gibson. And it's a beautiful area. There's lots of room to run, but there's cottages all behind it. And it's an orchard area. And I've walked my dogs in dog parks in the city. Not everybody picks up.
That's right.
And I worry that it would be more of an issue than it is now.
That changes, though, because just if you have full freedom with the RM to take your dog off leash, I know you're not legally allowed to, but people do it anyway. Then how is that going to change from somebody who's not picking up now to somebody who will pick up later? If the people who do pick up now are suddenly going to say, well, it's dog area, so I don't care anymore. Like, you're still going to have the same owners who aren't picking up. The somewhat, I suppose, benefit is that at least you know where it is, rather than having to walk over Dookie on like any other.
But you would have to fence it.
Yes, absolutely.
So on Victoria Beach, on our beaches, you'd have to remove that fence every year. Mother Nature will back it.
You have to clean it.
And clean it. as a dog owner up 504, there's no accessible beach unless you take your dog down the sand ladder or there's cliffs over there.
Yeah, and it's not a high quality beach, and
You know,
I wouldn't be in favor of it.
if we.
So I'm not
if we
going to
did do
suggest any beach in
something
my
like that,
area.
It would be, you know, he's right, you would have to have more than one because,
We got to consider the different areas, the
Yeah.
different zones.
yeah.
As a dog owner, I would not be inclined to take my dog down to.
And I can make a couple of comments.
Mhm.
And I'm going to be specific about
Albert Beach, yeah.
Albert Beach. We have two problems. One, we've had a huge influx of new people who don't know the rules, and there's no enforcement. So I think, you know, in terms of how you manage the problem with dogs, we got to let people know what the rules are, and we have to occasionally walk down the beach and enforce the rules. Then over time, I mean, I think the vast majority of the people in the VRA are respectful of the dog leash rules. But Albert Beach, on any given day, they're running up and down the beach. We got a dog park already, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the dog part is Victoria Beach because like everybody lets their dogs off on the beach. Like, so if you give them an area to go to, that's very easily enforceable. And the bylaw is never enforced. I mean, in terms of dogs or anything.
If people call the police, it is enforced. People are getting tagged.
Steve, the relevant part of your suggestion is that it would facilitate the enforcement of the existing bylaw. I don't see enforcement going through the roof, whether we have a dog park or not. I don't think anything's going to change as a result of this.
First time two dogs get into a fight and a kid gets in the middle.
That can happen now.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Like,
Absolutely, but if we're,
Even more so in a confined space off the leash.
absolutely.
My dog wouldn't last 10 seconds.
Confined space.
but every major city and even a lot of minor cities have a dog run. And the reason is because exactly for the reasons that I point out here, aside from being able to have a place where dogs can go when it gets unbelievably hot to cool off, just in general, the reason why they have them is because people, when there isn't no area for them to be able to let the dogs off leash, just simply do wherever they want, like they have right now.
But people right now know that they can take their dog in the evening on a leash down to the beach.
But then the second they get down to the beach, to take them off. Like even this last week, I was
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yeah.
If you don't take them off the leash, you're going swimming with them.
Yeah.
But this has been going on for 100 years.
I don't see this being a solution.
but then what's the point of the bylaw?
The point of the bylaw is, you know, if
To tag a random person?
basically, or to help people in Irwin's position who have a dog beach that they don't want because there are way too many dogs on the beach.
Well, if we're allowed 20 summer constables, we could nip this problem in the bud right now because we could dispatch people on a full-time basis to each beach in the municipality. The reality of it is, yeah, unfortunately, there are less law enforcers than there are
We're in a
dog
little bit of a
owners
soft
or other
spot at the
residents.
present time as far as enforcement is concerned. Let's get that cranked back up to where it should.
Can I express my opinion?
Certainly.
I love dogs. We had a wonderful dog. I think restricting dogs from the beach during the day is unreasonable. I think dogs should be allowed on the beach whenever you want to, as long as they're on a leash.
And you pick up.
And you pick up.
Yeah, well, that would cut through a lot of the rhetoric.
I think the problem you have with Victoria Beach trying to designate a specific area is there are so many beaches at Victoria Beach where people go.
Yeah.
Some of these areas where I spend my winters quite a few years, that there's one beach, one very long beach. So it's easier because everybody's going to that beach. But here, People are going all over the place. At
Yeah.
Albert Beach, there's a lot of visitors. I mean, they're day trippers.
We have,
You can't send them to the north end.
we have 11 different.
So where are you gonna do
Well, the
them?
municipality.
I'm not saying that we like designate them right now this second. I'm just saying that like I really think that we should be taking a look at it because it's the easiest way to amend the problem. And the problem right now is that the bylaw is useless, essentially.
Well, we can't give up on that. I think there are mechanisms.
Education and enforcement.
That will lead to better enforcement in the foreseeable
Okay,
future.
but a couple of things that like.
Can I ask a
as-
question, Steve?
Yeah.
A question for Steve?
Yeah.
Not all dog owners are responsible and not all dog owners clean up after their pets. So that means our public works people are gonna have to go in there
Mhm.
every morning and clean up the shit.
Yeah.
Our dog,
And
our
pick it all
public
up from the
works people,
waste bin.
our public works people are stressed already.
But they don't do it right now. Like there's waste all over the beach.
That's up to the dog owner. That's
We
not up to
created
public works.
That's my point, Penny. I don't think, creating a dog park is going to create more work for our public works people, not less.
Yeah.
So, but, okay, just if I may. The bylaw as it stands right now is not being enforced. We have a dog catcher who, like, we basically needs to be around at very specific times, as in after 6 p.m.
He
That's,
doesn't go on the beach.
sorry.
He doesn't go on the beach.
Okay, so he doesn't go on the beach, so basically the bylaw is unenforceable. We have owners who are running up and down the beach with dogs off the leash as is. Dogs that are doing the business on every beach in the RM, and there's no place to go for dogs during basically deadly heat waves. So residents will take their dogs to the beach regardless. This is a very easy solution, and I hear all the concerns, but this is a very easy solution. I'm not saying that we designate a spot right now. I'm just saying we should take a look at it. And if we can designate sort of 3 different areas, one for Albert Beach, one for sort of like the general north end, and then one inside of the VRA, then now you have something that's really easily enforceable for residents because they know exactly where they should go. So you remove dogs off most of the beach. Okay, there might be a little bit of dookie, but there's dookie all over the place right now. If the dogs aren't being picked up after by those same owners, they're not going to change.
Well,
And-
there's no beach near Albert Beach that's accessible unless you want to buy Mr. Thompson's property.
I don't believe it's for sale.
It's just not doable.
I know the Grand Beach has a dedicated dog beach, but they also have park staff who,
And just one each.
and
talk
one,
about.
and yeah. So, I appreciate you bringing it forward. I don't think specific areas would solve the problem. I think it would cause more grief for public works.
I'd rather look at how can we
Let's
enhance the enforcement of our
Enhance the
existing
bylaws. And I hope this is the last time that I ever hear a member of this council call one of our bylaws useless. It does come down to enforcement. So
Education and enforcement.
And look back, I think I sent council a copy of looking back 50 years, the VB Herald, which was published, I think, in the 70s or the 80s. I can't remember. Look back 50 years. Dogs have been an issue in Victoria Beach, a complaint in Victoria Beach for decades and decades. I don't,
So isn't it good to find a new solution or a new method?
I personally don't believe specified dog areas are a solution for Victoria Beach.
too small.
I don't think people would utilize them. Some would for sure. But if you're at the end of 8th Avenue and you have to go to the yacht club to walk your dog in the water, you're not going to do it.
I'm not going to park in the parking lot to take my dog down to a dog exclusive
Well,
beach either.
are the dogs going to follow the rules and not attacking other dogs?
Well,
No, that's
I suppose the last thing I would say on this, and rest my case is that, as you just pointed out, it's been a problem for 50 years. We've tried the exact same thing for 50 years. Nothing has changed in terms of how it's enforced. Any success in enforcing it's still the exact same problem as it was, probably worse so because there's even more dogs, and it's going to become even worse because during the pandemic there has been a massive increase in adoption of dogs. So it's going to become an even worse problem, and we're not willing to explore any other option than what doing exactly.
Enforcement. If enforcement isn't working, then let's take a look at how the bylaw is being enforced, and let's enforce it properly.
Well, and some talk, perhaps even one member or perhaps a new member of our police force is a bylaw enforcement.
Well, they all are.
Yeah,
That's
well, maybe one.
So then we add more money into payroll because we need more enforcement and more officers.
You'd be
Yeah,
adding more
because-
money to maintenance and
Yes,
upkeep of a
yeah.
dog park, and it will be constant.
Day trippers are not going to go behind the gate to a specific beach that's designated to dog
That's
because
for the problem.
because
It's residents for the problem.
No, it's
Not
the day
Connor
trippers.
Winslow.
It's
Erwin,
the
wanna dig in on that
it's the
one?
day trippers with dogs on the beach outside of.
I mean, if you want to come to a beach for the day and you bring your dog because you don't want to leave them home for a very long day, I understand that. But when you get here and you see a sign that says dogs are not allowed on the beach between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., you're not going to turn around and go home. You're going to take your dog on the leash into the beach. So it's always going to be a bit of an issue. I agree. I agree that we've been going on for 100 years and it hasn't changed, and there are more dogs.
so it's a dog beach for some versus a bylaw for all.
Mhm.
So let's take a look at what's wrong with the way the bylaw is being enforced, and let's make necessary changes that we can enforce it.
In the rest of your case.
Penny, you said that our dog control person, animal control person will not go onto the beach. So Sunday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, park them at the end across from the Girl Guide camp. And as the dogs are being walked down, they'll be told, you either go back to your car and leave, or don't bring your dog. Again, the sign at Albert Beach is about this big and this wide, and you can barely read what's left of the letters because it's so old.
I think that's actually not a bad idea. We're paying the guy.
Revise.
Tell him we want you parked in front of the Girl Guide camp
Revise
these hours every Saturday.
The other thing we've talked about repeatedly, and we have repeatedly put in our strategic plan, is an update of signage, and we have not followed through on that. So, our dog control officer also works for the arm of Alexander. So perhaps we could contact him and see if he could do a couple of
Yeah, but
passes.
let's talk to him about it to see what he can do to help us with this dilemma.
Keep that in administration sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another suggestion I'd like to make is let's get a simple pamphlet made out, and I'll volunteer to put them on every car on Saturday morning in the pit road parking lot. Let them know what the rules are.
And I'll walk up and down 59 and 504 and stick them on the windshields of everybody who stops at Old Mill Beach, Cocktail Beach, Sandy Bay, the Sand Cliffs.
Yeah. Well, again, I keep saying it's education. People don't know the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
53 vehicles parked as far as the cemetery last
Okay.
Okay.
week. Okay,
Our
let's
Casey?
move
Thank
on.
you, Steve. I appreciate you bringing it up,
appreciate
Steve.
you understanding this.
All right. Mike, you had a resolution.
Yes. Very simply.
Can I just start it off?
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe
That's
you should
okay.
do that.
Maybe I should. We have resolved the,
It's definitely a real thing.
oh, he's getting something.
Getting insufferable.
Whereas the Interlake Eastern Regional Health Authority, IERHA, and municipal leaders throughout the IERHA region have identified the lack of a clinical teaching unit as a significant hurdle for providing sustainable health care in rural communities. And Whereas the Primary Care Development Group Incorporated has been created to develop and implement the proposed Family Health and Learning Center to eliminate this hurdle for physician recruitment and includes specific strategies for developing a pipeline of Manitoba-trained physicians to rural communities in the IERHA region. Therefore, be it resolved that the Arm of Victoria Beach Council supports the implementation of the proposed PCDG Family Health and Learning Center and urges the provincial government to also support this project as a priority initiative. Mike, did you move this?
I'll happily second it.
And Mike, would you like to speak to?
Yeah, this has been developing for a long time. What they want to do is they want to build a center on the Selkirk General Hospital campus. This center is meant to draw medical students from the large urban centers and allow them to go through their residency and their internships and such in a rural setting. And this isn't just general practice. These are physicians who want to specialize. Give them opportunities where they can actually practice their specialties outside of the large urban centers. And we're starting to see that doctors who are exposed to the non-urban, the rural way of life are opting more and more to stay in those rural settings. So this is addressing not only the issues that we're having with recruitment of new doctors to rural practices in our region, but more importantly, the retention of these physicians as well. And our retention rates are getting better in the Northeast region. We are seeing less and less turnover of physicians. Most importantly, for us in Powerview Pine Falls would be our closest health center. So I fully support this, and it's giving the full support of all municipalities that are represented by the
Community
IERHA.
Futures has seen other municipalities sign on to this, and it's the right thing to do. So
It's good. It's good for us. It's good for our residents. So I would hope that council will support this resolution and just basically join the voices of our neighboring municipalities who are also putting their support behind this learning center, Family Health and Learning Center.
When I was involved in this group, the IERHA Community Medical Committee, whatever, this was on the table back then. This was 3 or 4 years ago.
It's been a long
Blair
time.
Skinner has
Right. Oh,
toiled
Blair's
for
been-
years,
Blair Skinner has
and
done a
he's this
tremendous
close to making something
Yeah.
happen. So more power to him, and let's support it.
It's a well thought out strategy
Mhm.
for recruitment and retention of physicians.
I'm not really sure how rural Selkirk is, but yeah, sure.
Well, but the thing is that because Selkirk is home to IERHA as opposed to the WRHA, that means if you want to do your practicum, if you want to practice, okay, these are the facilities that you will go to, and they promote into rural communities from the Family Learning Center.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. But I think, if you're practicing in Selkirk, I think they will try and funnel you out. And I think also back in the day, the theory was that if you are a rural med student, if we can get you to practice in a rural setting, you may decide to stay home instead of go further afield or
Exactly.
Okay,
homegrown talent.
are we ready to
So,
call a vote on this?
yes. Erwin, did you have anything? No. Okay. All right, all those in favor?
No question that we need more rural doctors, but trying to get to the Canadian students to migrate out to the country has been a significant challenge. For the most part, the way our current medical clinics in the rural areas are being positioned is with foreign doctors who come to Canada. They get a spot, they earn some money, and then they migrate to the city. I mean, I'm not sure you know, but my own daughter is a physician, and she did her residency in Northern Ontario. And then where did she go to? Montreal. So, but we definitely need to have a facility where training can be provided. And you need to have a certain critical mass, because to provide education for medical doctors in doing their residency, you can't just have 1 or 2 med students and 1 or 2 doctors. You have to have a proper team in place. So I wholeheartedly support the idea and encourage the council to move forward on it.
I will recall the question.
You're a little late to the party, Irwin.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank
I
you
just
very
wanted
much.
to get my 3 cents worth in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Mike, for bringing that forward. Moving on to correspondence. I know we received a lot of correspondence regarding bylaw 1622, and Steve and Mike and others have addressed the fact that we will be having a public hearing. We will advise residents when that will happen via Connect and via an ad in the Winnipeg Free Press. So 2 ads. There is a timeline involved and process to follow, but we will be doing that. We received many letters from residents in the Gibson area regarding our proposal last possibly sell for road allowances. Council can advise that we listened and we will not be pursuing this any further. We received an email regarding a proliferation of travel trailers being used as accommodation on empty lots. Victoria Beach is not a campground. Residents can store trailers on their property, but they are not supposed to be using them as housing or as a cottage unless or until they are building on the lot. So it's my understanding that our building inspector and possibly our police will be having another look at these cottages that are actually trailers. They are not allowed.
So just one note on it. We also just amended some of our bylaws. So that way, if you get a Schedule A this year, then if this has been a recurring thing where every year you're getting a Schedule A, next year you're getting an immediate Schedule B, and what is it, $1,000 fine?
No.
It's $1,000 admin fee.
Yep.
Yeah, $1,000 admin fee immediately. So it's no longer a free pass. You are going to start getting tagged regularly.
Water conservation, that was dealt with in this council meeting. We do have a bylaw on the books that allows us to implement conservation measures for water. Please don't make us go that
Please
route.
don't make us do that.
Please be responsible with your water consumption and don't abuse the water. Wansing Beach, the garbage bin has been removed.
Yep.
I think we need to remind residents that King Edward apparently is also quite abused. It may be moved as well.
Yeah, King Edward
It
is
will be
worse.
the next one to
Yes,
go.
it will be the next one to go because it's dangerous.
Yep.
If I may tell a story of a neighbor of mine who stopped his car and was walking up to the bin, or about to walk up to the bin, and that 600-pounder, there's a
Big one.
big old boar out there. He was in the bin and he popped his head up as my neighbor was starting to go towards the bin. Fortunately, he wasn't that close. He turned around, got back in his car and left. But these, with the number of bears, with the lack of natural food source, with the lack of hunting the last 2 years due to COVID, we have just got lots and lots and lots and lots of bears with very little food. So they're going for the fastest food sources they can.
Well, I think that gradual disappearance of the satellite bins between now and next spring
Yes.
is easier for Public Works to accommodate than just doing them all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
So there's more on the list.
Yeah.
Good.
I see King Edward. I see King Edward going next because, as I said, to start with, it's a bigger problem than Montesing.
And yet we don't get as many complaints about it. You do.
Check out Facebook.
I am not,
Don't go there.
I am not checking Facebook unless it's the Victoria Beach Facebook.
That's right.
We all am.
You are in Victoria Beach.
But just on the garbage thing real quick, the other day, well, actually for the last 2 weeks, people are leaving their empty, like their garbage bags on the road. Like they're not in any sort of bin, they're just simply bagged.
Yeah.
And personally, I would like to amend our bylaws so in that way the people who do that receive a fine, and not a small fine. I'm thinking like an escalating fine every time it goes up another couple $100, because those are right now the people who are causing the most problems. I know that next year we are mandating bear resistant bins, but it's going to happen again next year. Because a lot of people are just simply going to say, I don't want to shell out the money, and here's the
Then they
thing.
won't get garbage.
They're not going to get garbage pickup, but then we have a worse problem because people
for littering.
that tag for litter, but we also need a secondary fine to like just something, basically you've left essentially a food tray over the bears. You are the problem. Here's your $200, $300, $400, $500 fine, because that's the level of danger that they're bringing to the community.
I agree.
And whether, and people that do that, whether they realize or not, whether you intentionally or unintentionally feed the bears, you're killing them.
Mhm.
As soon as you feed a bear your trash, you are taking away their natural inhibition with humans. They're going to come depend on it, and suddenly they're tagged a nuisance bear. And a bear gets tagged one time. Everybody's probably seen a little scrawny one with the yellow ear tag going around. The next time they are trapped or tranquilized, that is the end of their life. And the reason for the end of their life is because of our bad habits. So get the bear resistant bin or hustle your garbage to Public Works. Okay.
And close the lid.
The day of plastic bags on the roadside is over. It doesn't wash. Next year, starting next year, if we don't enact something sooner, it's littering and you'll get tagged for it.
Yeah.
But I would like to see us amend our bylaws so that there's a substantial fine for people who just simply leave bag garbage out.
Yeah. Stop killing the bears.
As long as they put it in front of their yard.
Yeah, not someone else's yard.
People aren't that careful with their garbage.
All right, and there was, I think I sent it to all of council, there was an email about planting trees in the village green. And Steve is often mentioning that we should be planting more trees, and I agree. So that's something we need to consider moving forward. We do have a small tree budget.
That was to be in front of public works.
I know, but we've had requests for trees in the village green, requests for trees along the shoreline to, shore up the shoreline, if you will, up on the banks. The golf course, in one of my conversations with Carl very early in the season, he said, we don't need any more benches. Don't need any more memorial benches. Maybe people could buy trees instead of spending, what they spend on a bench, spend on a tree. I don't know how.
Several trees.
Or several trees. I don't know how that would work in terms of logistics, but it's something that we could consider, and the public works yard on the highway, once we sort out all the garbage and recycling details.
That has to be shielded.
That has to be shielded. So I think it's something that we should seriously consider moving forward and
Let's
have
not
more.
lose sight. Yeah, for sure.
We do need to spend that budget like 2 weeks ago, because I spent 3 hours on the phone yesterday trying to find a tree. That is a very specific tree I was trying to find. But last year I could find anybody I wanted, and I could get literally whatever I wanted from any outlet.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the year, they're gone.
Like,
I think Jensen Nurseries was sold out within the first week. Shelmerdines had to put in 3 new orders. Like, everybody's selling out. So we do have money, but we need to spend it like right now.
Keep hunting.
Well, and
Well, it's not a matter of hunting. We just need to spend it.
I think maybe COVID has impacted, everybody's gardening, everybody's spending a lot of money, maybe that's part of it.
Sitting in their backyard staring at where a tree ought to be.
So and there's good times to plant trees as well, right? Fall is a good time to plant a tree as long as you can water them. And that's the other consideration. Plant them, but you got to be able to water them.
Yeah.
So let's, moving forward, have a more positive discussion, a more
Okay.
thorough.
So just real quick, and I meant to bring this up earlier. We actually really need to water the trees out in the public area, the VRA, because they're starting to turn yellow. So, I mean, we got a water truck. It'd just be like, once a week or so. It's all we need. It just needs some sort of refreshment because right now they're all encouraged.
I've seen a lot of dying trees up there.
Well, perhaps we can talk to, through Trevor, talk to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, some of those trees down.
But fill up at the golf course as opposed to using treated water.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is using it.
Yep. Okay.
Any other correspondence that came to close?
There was an interesting item of correspondence from a local contractor who strongly recommends that we limit or cut off altogether construction during the VRA period, or at least during July and August. There's not very many good reasons for people to have to do their renovations, their constructions during those critical months. And here's a contractor who benefits from this work, arguing that we should reduce contractor access to emergencies during July and August. And I think that is their suggestion deserves more consideration that we ought to talk about.
And the person is not a small contractor either. They're one of the major contractors in the area. I'd be all for that.
I think it's something that should be looked at
I think
as opposed to.
I've had a conversation with several contractors and a couple of the big guys are supportive of the idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it would be a bit of a tough sell for some residents, but, and we also have to be mindful of our legal obligations, and our bylaw, our vehicle restriction bylaw cannot stop people from making a living, essentially.
Mhm.
So,
But if the contractor's gone.
yeah, but that doesn't mean you're not going to, as a property owner, want to get the work done and contact an outside contractor.
Yeah, that's.
So, and that monitoring that is difficult. I think that letter was amazing. I thought it had a lot of really good ideas, but
Well,
I'm not sure how easy it would be to implement.
Few of us would argue that right now during July and August, there's still too much truck traffic through the beach.
Everywhere.
Every contractor you can think of. There's got to be some way we can clamp down. I propose a contractor permit is one way to limit it, and that turned out to be somewhat problematic. But there are ways that we could cut down on this.
I mean, you're not taking away people's livelihoods if you're just saying just for this 2-month period.
Yeah.
Because then you have the other 10 months to be able to make your
Mhm.
Yeah.
income.
Observe the restrictions.
And you can very easily have something inside of a bylaw saying that if it's on an emergency basis, then obviously you can apply for an exemption.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be Debbie Downer here. We know there are people who come in with a screwdriver in their trunk and say they're a shop contractor.
Yeah.
Can they drive in? And that's not far-fetched. So who's going to have an emergency and when? I think there needs to be a lot more thought if we're going to consider this. There needs to be a lot more thought and planning to go into it. But
Right.
I'm told by people who have lived in Victoria Beach much longer than I, that it used to be an unwritten rule that you did not do construction during the summertime. But that has changed and people do.
Certainly not major construction.
Well,
But,
they are doing that. I can only imagine.
Places are being built in the middle of the summer.
I think you're on the right track, that this deserves more conversation and discussion
Yeah, for sure.
to try and limit it further.
Bearing in mind the regulations that
Yep.
we're under.
As a child, the only trucks or the only cars you'd see would be the parking lot. And maybe occasionally, septic service or something, and outside of that, that was it.
That has changed.
Yeah.
great letter and something for further discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else have correspondence? Mike?
I did, and again, it's another repetition of a theme. Away from the beach, dogs still off leash or not tied up when they're in the yard. I walk 2 big dogs, and every once in a while we'll be encountered by a dog running out of a yard, or a dog that's with someone who's walking or biking, and this dog is off leash. And they'll tell me, "Oh, don't worry, it won't hurt you." Well, I'm not worried about your dog hurting my dogs. I'm worried about my dogs hurting your dogs. I had occasion to mention to one person whose Jack Russell came running out and challenged my 200-pounders.
Yeah.
That if my dogs were coyotes, your dog would be breakfast.
And dogs are also, if they're on leash, they can be more aggressive than when they're off leash, right? Because they're being held.
Defensive. They feel suddenly they have to defend themselves. So for crying out loud, folks, I don't care how affectionate and fun and dog loving Fluffy is. Leash it, tie it up. It's
Build
the
a
law.
fence, or build a fence.
Or build a fence.
Build a fence.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I already had my rant about the conifers, and just the last thing is just get vaccinated.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting for that.
Well, but honestly, when you have an infection rate of 60 and 70% among the unvaccinated, I mean, just people, it's the,
Get the shot.
yeah, the common thing is that it hasn't been tested enough. It's been tested for over a year and a half. There are no long-term side effects. The vaccine stays inside of your body for 2 weeks, and anything that you were to experience would have happened in that time. The mRNA vaccines are 100% safe. Just get vaccinated. I don't want to go into another lockdown because a bunch of people didn't want to get vaccinated. Stop listening to the internet. Start listening to the scientists.
Fair enough. Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
Erwin, did you have anything?
He's looking through his papers.
He's looking at it. All right, hearing nothing further. Raymond, did you have anything before? Final resolution of the day, be it resolved that the July 20th, 2021 regular council meeting be adjourned. The next regular council meeting will be held on August 3rd, 2021 here at 1 p.m. at 705 1661 Portage Avenue. And I have a move.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I'll be there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Can
I'm
we
gonna
take?
have to respond to a nature call
Me too.
before we continue.
Not up yet.
Oh, now everybody knows